everybody, and welcome to a game series that I've been really excited to bring back, and that is Crusader Kings 2. Now, a while ago, I attempted to do a Crusader Kings 2 gameplay playthrough with Ireland, limited to very little success, and I kind of attribute that to the fact that my channel is heavily focused on survival games, Project Zomboid, Don't Starve, and the like, with Game Dev Tycoon being kind of the standalone weird one, though to some extent, the Game Dev Tycoon kind of is focused on the survival of the games industry. But Crusader Kings 2 is something that I've been in love with for a long time. I am a huge fan of strategy games, and Crusader Kings 2 has hooked me in a way that very few games have in a very long time. And I really wanted to bring it back again, and I decided that I would try and bring it back with the Old Gods expansion, which just released. Now, prior, Crusader Kings 2 only focused on Christian nations. You could play as a Christian leader and so on. Now, later on, they released the expansion called Sword of Islam, which you could play as a Muslim leader, with a few new and kind of exciting additions to the game. But Old Gods is by far the biggest expansion they've ever had, in this game, and it adds a bunch of stuff. No, typically, the game starts in 1066, where it's medieval Europe, right? And you can recognize a lot of different things. England to the north, France is a much larger, dominating kind of power at the time. Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire are still very large and in charge to a lot of different extents. Duke William the Bastard, King Harold, and King Haralde are all very much vying for control of England, and you can basically pick anyone in this timeline to play as. You could zoom in, and if I really, really wanted to, I could play as, if we pop open this particular person, not him, we could play as Count Berthold of Sichuiz of part of the Holy Roman Empire. We could play as him and do whatever we want with him. We can try and make him the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, or we can just be content as to who we are and where we are with him. But with the Old Gods expansion, it brings the timeline back about 200 years, you know, just there and thereabouts, to 867, where Europe is, in my opinion, highly unrecognizable, where the pagan religions are very, very powerful still. And if we click to the Independent Realms map, you can still see very much what the game and the world looks like at this particular time. In the north, the pagans kind of rule. In the south, we're still looking at a lot of Christian nations kind of mixed with pagan religions. And further south, we have the rise of eventually what's going to become the Muslim religion. The Byzantine Empire is much smaller, but still exists. The Holy Roman Empire just doesn't exist yet. And it's a very exciting time to play. But more importantly, like I said, they add the Old Gods, a pagan religion. With that, a ton of new events, new different ambitions, a lot of new gameplay. And if you don't know much about Crusader Kings 2, I have created a Crusader Kings 2 basics video that I highly suggest you go check out if you want to know how this game works. But generally, unlike other strategy games where you control armies and you take over the world, you're more in control of your dynasty, your family. And it's about the expansion and domination of your family ties. And with that comes backstabbing, marriages, children, sons who inherit your land, or perhaps your uncle who really is an ambitious man and wants to take over the throne after you die, has your son who was meant to inherit, your only son, assassinated without you ever finding out. And you're such an old man at that point, and your wife is long dead, you can no longer have children. And he just waits for you to die a low, meaningless, natural death, so that when you do die, he could take over your kingdom and do with what he wants. And that happens all the time. Perhaps your wife is your second wife, and she bears you a son, but you already had a son from your previous wife, so she has your first son assassinated so that her son could take the throne after you die. All these things happen in Crusader Kings 2, and it makes for one of the most exciting and natural storytelling games I have played in a very long time. And with the Old Gods, I want to bring that and introduce you to this type of game. On the other hand, in the future, myself, Northern Lion, Alpaca Patrol, and a few others have a weekly thing planned to show you all, and hopefully it kind of kicks off in the next couple of months. But until then, I will be playing this game for you. So I'm going to be playing as a pagan person. I could play as Scotland, but Scotland is already very powerful. So I'm going to be playing as the King of Osterlandet over here. He is a king with two vassals who control two different counties. If we zoom in, the Olafur controls Uppland, and Dag controls Heidenmark. and I personally control these two, but they are both my vassals. So as him, I'm going to be taking over and playing as him. Now, I could play as one of his vassals and try and overthrow the king, but I feel like taking control of somebody who already has some semblance of power, though not too much, would be more exciting. So I'm going to hit play. We're going to look at the starting areas that we have to deal with, a lot of what our situation currently is, and go from there. Now, one of the other exciting things about Crusader Kings 2, the Old Gods, is that there are so many fractured nations of chiefs and different tribes and stuff. Becoming king is going to be, the king of Norway, so to speak, is going to be very difficult. But the first thing we want to do is take a look at our particular king. Now, this person actually existed. You can hit the Wikipedia link right here, and you can take a look at exactly who he was and what he did during his lifetime. So first thing you want to know is that since for the most part most of these people existed, but when you start a game, their stats are randomly determined. Typically they'll start with very similar to traits though. And taking a look at this particular man's stats, you can see this king is king for a reason. He has quite a good bunch of stats. He's a very diplomatic man, but more importantly, he is a very martial man. He is good on the battlefield. He's actually pretty damn good with money as well. His intrigue, which is his personal ability to plot and assassinate, is relatively okay. 12 is pretty much the acceptable number that I like to see. And his learning, dealing with his religious aspect of his life, is an 11, which is still not terrible, but not exactly the best. Also, we have a bunch of traits each character kind of gets as they play that affect those. And over here, you're going to see in parentheses what his effective level is. So effectively, he's a 40 Marshal because of a bunch of other things. But he's a skilled tactician, which basically gives him a bunch of bonuses to Marshal, a +6 to Marshal, which is phenomenal. To intrigue, to stewardship, and health, and learning takes a hit because he's a skilled tactician. So he's more of a military man, less of a religious man. He's a quick man, though. He's a very sharp-witted and very quick-to-learn kind of guy, which gives him +3s to everything. He's a hunter, which gives him a nice little bonus to his martial skill. He's a patient man. He is a brave man as well, giving him a nice moral defense kind of bonus if we get attacked, and giving him another bonus to his martial skill. He's also very ambitious, which gives him pluses to everything, and a just man. Now, for us playing as these traits just mean kind of flat stats, but I like to kind of take a look at those stats and put them into the character and play the character as though he was this man. So I can easily picture King Haraldr being a warmongering man who's trying to subjugate those around him and then give them a good king, essentially. But if these were traits on an NPC, for instance, my wife, we'll take a look at hers in a minute, if these were the traits that my wife had, these would be very scary because not only do they mean flat stats for her, but if somebody's ambitious, they are more willing to do something to potentially assassinate anybody in their way. So if my wife was ambitious and wanted her son to be king sooner rather than later, if she was ambitious and had a good intrigue, there's a very good chance she would try to assassinate me and get away with it. But if she was content, there's a very good chance she would kind of just let things go. So outside of flat numbers, traits actually mean things outside of that, like what characters will do as they are played. So my wife, on the other hand, is... Jesus, she's awful. She's a horrible diplomat. She's pretty bad at martial. Her best stat is intrigue, and that's still awful. She's not very religious, and she's a horrible steward. On the other hand, she's a skilled tactician, I guess, which gives her that +6. She's a proud woman, which gives her a bit of a prestige bonus every month. She's arbitrary. Basically, she just couldn't care less about anything. Arbitrary is a horrible stat to have. And she's a greedy person, which means that she's going to get a little bit more money, but her diplomacy takes a hit, and she's lustful, meaning she's very likely to sleep around on me. If you take a look, she's not too happy about me, though she would be if I wasn't a king, only for probably, maybe a year or less. And I hate her just because she's so arbitrary, and her personal diplomacy is garbage. So I could see my character, for whatever reason we married her, but I could see King Harold just wanting to get rid of her and potentially find a better wife. But first and foremost, let's take a look at our council here. Our council is a very important aspect of our characters. Basically, these are his right-hand men. These are the people that are going to kind of dictate how he is able to manage the nations nearby. So going straight from top to bottom, we have our Chancellor. He loves us, and he's got a 14, which is a really good thing. Our Chancellor basically has 3 primary abilities. He's going to be able to improve diplomatic relations with neighboring people. with neighboring nations. He can sow dissent amongst them as well, which basically means if I don't want to kind of directly attack them with the military, but I still want to weaken their nation, I can have him sow dissent. And he can fabricate claims. So if I don't have a claim on a particular area, and I want a claim on a particular area, I can send him to kind of spend a few years looking for reasons that I deserve it. And every year he has a % chance to kind of say, hey, you know, because of your great uncle's nephew's son's wife's daughter-in-law's son, you actually have a connection to this land, and you can claim it as your own. And that's kind of what he does. Our Marshal is quite simply our Marshal. He's actually very good at his job. I'm going to have him automatically be training troops in our main land, because that's kind of what he's good at. We also have a Steward who's basically deals with our taxes. He is awful at his job. He is really bad. He can collect taxes. He can oversee constructions, which basically can speed up the process of building if he is lucky enough to do that. And he can research economy tech. Right now he has an 8. He's awful, but there's actually nobody better than him. So that's something to keep in mind. Our Spy Master is very important, and he is a phenomenal Spy Master by the looks of it. And the reason he's important is because if I need somebody assassinated, I can send him off to create a spy network in the area of the person that I need killed. And when he's there, and if he's good at his job, he will increase the chances that the assassination will be successful, and I can kill off that person. He can scheme, which basically, if I put him in my home where I am, in my capital, he can look for plots of assassination attempts in my home country to try and stop that from happening, if that's something I'm worried about. I can also send him in other nations to see if anybody's scheming to kill me in those nations. And he can look and study technology, which we're not going to worry about. And our Seer is basically our bishop, and since he's called a Seer because we worship Nordic gods, he's called the Seer, and we're not going to worry about him too much. He can basically improve religious relations with other Seers from other nations. He can research cultural tech, and he can basically he can convert people who are heretical. So that's our council, and honestly, we have a phenomenal council outside of our Steward, who we are going to want to replace pretty much immediately. But we have a notification here. We want to pick an ambition, and to pick an ambition, we take this ambitious tab, and we take a look at what we can do. So we have a bunch of different ambitions. We can amass wealth, which if we collect over $500 worth of gold, we'll get an extra stewardship point, which is really good. We can become a paragon of virtue, which will give us a huge bunch of bonuses. But my character. He's a religious man, but he's not a phenomenally religious man. He can have a daughter, which would be nice. Have a son, which is actually really big. And become king of Norway. Now, becoming king of Norway is something I'm going to want to do, but what point is there to become king if I have no heir to give it to? So we're going to have a son as our ambition. So we're going to be tumbling in the sack with our wife as often as possible. But more importantly, we want to take a look at our neighbors. First of all, we already have our Marshal doing his thing. I'm going to have our Spy Master scheming just to make sure nobody's planning to kill us. I meant to put him over here because that was our capital. I messed up and did not put him there. But we're not going to worry about it. We'll have our Steward collect taxes. With luck, he'll get killed by the peasants, and we can replace him later. I'm not worried about him. And our Seer, we can have him improve religious relations. Let's take a look at our neighbors real quick. What are we dealing with? We have this man here who actually likes us. His heir is not a dynastic heir. This man is not related to us. It doesn't seem. He doesn't have anybody related to us. If we kill him off, I'm curious who would become our heir. He doesn't particularly like me. I don't mind him so much. But we want to start taking in all of these areas. So the closest and most effective one is probably going to be here. He's a small nation, and we could probably take him off. We could offer him vacillation. He's going to say no, just because there's a small difference in rank, etc., etc. Is he considered king? No, he's just chief. I'm considered a king. He's a chief. He'd become king if he had more. Taking it from him is going to be something we're going to want to do. We can't quite declare war on him right now, can we? Oh, we could subjugate him. We could declare war to subjugate him. This is new with the old gods. Now, before, you couldn't declare war without good reason. But with the old gods, subjugating him is a good reason to declare war. And we might want to just march in there and offer and just take him away immediately. One of the other things we could do is take a concubine, which is just a woman we could take from him. And he doesn't seem to have anybody we can take. So right now, we're just going to march in, and we're going to attempt to subjugate Telemark immediately. We have the ability to do so. We can raise our military instantaneously, and from our vassals, raise our county levies, raise our vassal levies. Let's just raise our vassal levies. We'll march everybody to Vesterfold here. We'll unpause the game. We'll run it at about a 3 just to get everybody there. Once everybody's about there, we'll get ready to march into Telemark. It looks like there's already going to be some war happening over here. And, I mean, this is going to be crazy in general to look at over time. But once we have everything over here, we're going to just take Telemark as our own. Now, he might have some allies he could call in, but hopefully we, too, will have allies. And we're just going to throw a large number of men at him. No real need for strategy here. We can just take Telemark and as our own. Now, these 18 men, not a huge deal. We can actually just declare war while we wait for those 18 men. And again, I offer him vacillation. He says no. And what more does he want other than to kill? What more could I offer him there? So we could declare war on Telemark. Maybe I can't do it anymore? Is it because I have my vassals raised? Declare war. We cannot declare war if we have raised army levies. Okay, so in all fairness, we're not allowed to declare war until we lower our levies here. So declare war, subjugation warriors. Pagans are allowed to subjugate other pagan rulers once every 10 years. With the become king ambition, there is no such time limit against targets in the kingdom. Free men are always willing to follow the mightiest ruler. My liege, since I arrived in Veth, there have never been a shortage in troops. Okay, good. So basically saying we have more troops. He's doing an excellent job as my main man. We're going to lower it down a little bit. Subjugate Norway. We're going to let him know that we want to take him out. And he's going to raise his armies. And in turn, we're going to raise our own. And he is going to end up dying for not offering. Mighty Thor and Odin have determined that Telemark is our own. And I don't see why he would have said no. Now, he's just going to leave his men there and kind of... He knows he can't fight us. That's why he's staying there, not attempting to fight us. So I'm going to wait for the rest of these men to kind of show up. And then what we're going to do is take out his army and spread our influence there. And if he's lucky, I'll allow him to continue to rule under mine. Magyar nomads no more. The king of Magyars almost has decided to settle down in the Carpathian Basin, making it the new homeland of the Magyar tribes. I don't know what that means. So, we could go to his location and take a look. We can go to location. Magyar. I don't know where Magyar is. It seems that the man in Hungary is letting us know about this, but I don't particularly care all that much since I'm way up in Norway. So I'll say interesting. It doesn't really bother me all too much. And once this last here, we're going to merge our armies here. And with me at the front of the line, because I am a man of pure strength, we are going to march in and subjugate Telemark under rule of Odin and Thor. It is their will to allow us to do this. So we're going to speed up time to about a ×4 here, and we're going to crush them. And now we're going to basically lay siege to Telemark, and they're going to kind of sit here. I don't even know where they've gone. They've retreated off into some other country here. And with this, we're going to subjugate this town. Laying siege, basically once this green bar fills up with red instead, we can force enforce our demands. Now we could surrender, which we don't want to do. We could offer a white peace, which basically means nothing happens, but enforce our demands is what we want, and we easily could have that. And once the war score raises to a high enough, we are able to do so. The defenders of Frederickson sallied forth, but were caught unawares, become of the attackers. They lost many before limping back to the postern gate. There were great cheers from the attacking encampment. Basically, attacking troops, we take a little bit of losses, but the defending troops take a huge hit to morale and even more losses. And we will officially lay siege. Here we are. Lay siege. So we've been able to lay siege here. Looks like we're going to take a little bit of losses because disease has fallen, and we are now laying siege to this town. And with that, we have the ability to once again have to wait for the bar to lower before we can essentially take it over. So we could essentially attempt to assault and the holding, but we may take losses. We don't really want to do that. We could attempt to enforce demands. He's still saying no. That's fine. We will once again just wait for time to pass, as we will just destroy his town. So we'll do that, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. Another, he's going to offer peace now. So we'll pause time here, and we'll see what exactly he says. To the heroic King Heraldor, blessings upon you and your house. We surrender under the terms. I gain piety and prestige. He loses piety and prestige. I take or vassalize all titles held by Roald within the Kingdom of Norway. So we're going to accept that because we take it as ours. The Oslo subjugation of Norway has ended. King Harald I has won. Telemark is ours, and we're going to pause time and we're going to lower the speed down by 2, and we're going to take a quick look at what we're able to do here. So we're going to lower our vassals, our levies here. No real need to have them any longer. We could raise a retinue, which we'll talk about that, I think, next episode. I'm not going to worry about it right now. And we're going to take a look here at what he thinks of us. So, he likes us. He actually likes us a lot. Oh, once somebody is subjugated, they like us. They respect power in the Old God. So, plus 75 for being subjugated. He likes us a whole lot. He doesn't like us because we declare war, but whatever, not a big deal. The subjugation bonus is much, much larger. He is actually a decent military man, but he's pretty crap at everything else, unfortunately. But more importantly, we have basically inherited his court, and with that, we might be able to appoint a better steward. We actually do have somebody who's considered a better steward now with him here, but barely. And to be honest with you, having somebody that likes us as a steward is better than having somebody that really doesn't like us with 1 point higher. So I'm not going to worry about it right now. What we can do is end this episode, I think. So we've taken Telemark immediately, and with that we can actually potentially take a concubine. Now, what a concubine is we take a woman from him as our concubine, basically somebody that is there purely to bear us children. And I'm not sure if he has anybody worth taking as a concubine. Is that his wife? She is a fortune builder, temperate. She is actually pretty decent. Is that his wife? It is his wife. We could take his wife as a concubine, and we might want to do that because we need a son. So we're gonna basically take his wife as our concubine after defeating him, and we'll see what he's gonna say. Yes, he's probably not gonna like us because of it, but it's gonna get us the ability to potentially bear a son much, much quicker. And that's something that's okay with me. So in one day, we're going to get the response here. Your wisdom and mercy have decided to accept your suggestion and make Asta your concubine. So how does he think of us now? Oh, that wasn't his wife. That was just somebody in his court, a courtier. And we have a brother over here. She's going to hate us, but really... Oh, no. She loves us. She's because she's content, which is excellent. She's content to be our concubine. She's not bad as far as stats are concerned, and we will basically use her purely as our concubine. She's lowborn anyway, not a big deal, and she wants to get married. That's her ambition, but it's not going to happen. So, episode 1, we got the explanations out of the way as to what we want to do, and we took Telemark immediately. And from there, we'll worry more next episode what we're going to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you don't mind a bit of a longer episode, and I will see you all next time.